Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another crafting video. Today we're going to avoid and do our best to avoid scouring the item upon finishing it. So, I've talked a lot about profit crafting and this is one of them. It's something I like doing myself because when I do profit crafts, I try to keep my options open in what kind of crafts we're going to land on. And in today's video, I'll show you how to do a Shaper Crusader belt. This is mainly focusing on energy shield, but there's a few different outcomes that can be very, very good. And you can do this on a few different bases, but the two most prominent ones is using a crystal belt. You can also go with a Stygian vice that is very popular to be used for this as well. However, we will be mainly focusing on a crystal belt because I think that's the best choice. And the modifiers we're looking for is very, very simple. We are looking for cooldown recovery rate for the Cospris Malice builds and whatnot, the ones that are not going for headhunters, for example. CDR is really good for that. Energy recovery rate is always great for these type of builds. Having movement speed during flask effect is always preferable, but not really mandatory. Cast speed during flask effect is a bit whatever, but still a really good one. Spell damage during flask effect is very good. We have energy shield from body armor being very, very good. And as you can see, most of these have defensive tag, which means we're going to fossil craft this. The Crusader modifier is % energy shield. Having critical strike chance against chalked enemies is pretty good as well. Cooldown recovery from a Crusader. Spell damage during flask effect is also a Crusader mod. And energy shield recovery rate is also a Crusader mod. So we have a lot of these things readily available. So when it comes to profit crafting, I talk about this quite a lot, and I'm going to go through this real quick. First, we have to verify if it's a profitable craft, which I've already done prior to this video, by comparing the baseline cost or average cost of crafting such an item versus the lowest or worst outcome or the average outcome, and see the difference between those two variables. And if that's a good margin, then it is a profitable craft, but it can also be very good to craft for usage. However, when we look at variables that, when you decide how much an item is going to cost you to craft, you have to look at the static value costs for certain items versus the ones that are more dynamic. So when we do this type of craft, first off, we need a Shaper and Crusader influence belt. We want to have a specific item level of the belt. I've chosen to do a crystal belt. So then I will check PoEDB mods and I'll see that 84 or higher can hit the highest tier resistances. If I do 85, it can roll strength, which is not a preferable roll. If I go 86, it can hit elemental damage attacks, which is not something we want. So 84 seems to be the best without influence. So then we check the Shaper influences. 75, 80, 84. Okay, 84 has cooldown recovery, and that's similar to the resistance roll. So 84 seems to be the best based on looking at the Shaper mods. Crusader has the exact same thing with 84 on the CDR. So now I know that I would like a belt that is 84, but preferably not 85 or 86. So I made sure to buy a 84 crystal belt. When you do this purchase, you have to compare a non-influenced plus the cost of buying a Crusader orb versus the cost of a Shaper crystal belt and versus the cost of a Crusader Shaper belt. Crusader crystal belt. So the cheapest was to buy the belt for 1 chaos, up to 3 I think it was. And then the Crusader orb cost me 1.2 exalted. So that is 1.2. So let's just quickly calculate how much this is going to be. So this is 1.2. I'm not going to calculate the 3 chaos investment on the base. We're also going to need, well, I paid 3C for that one. We're also going to need a Woke Orb, which I paid 4 exalted for. So these are the more static prices. So that's 5.2 exalted to get the base. I bought a Shaper belt. This was 1 chaos. I'm not going to bother that. So instead, we're just going to take this number and I'm just going to add 0.1 exalted to this by doing this to add that. So now we're already calculating above the average cost of crafting it. So this is 5.3x. So what I'll do now is I will Woke Orb them together. Woke Orb we're not going to bother crafting it because there's so many different mods that we want. So we'll just take the Woke Orb and smack them together like this. So now we have the base. We have a Shaper Crusader belt. And I know for a fact that the best way to hit the mods that we would want would be with the spamming dense fossils, which you can verify through Path of Exile, of course, by simply taking the belt and then taking fossils and the mods we want. We would want to have a pretty decent energy shield roll, preferably. We would want to have % energy shield, preferably tier 2 or higher. And if you look at the suffixes, the modifiers we want is CDR, preferably high tier. So we're actually going to go for tier 1 on that one. Energy shield recovery rate, preferably tier 1. Spell damage during flask effect, tier 2 or higher. CDR, tier 1. Energy shield recovery rate, tier 1. They can't roll together, so it's one of them we would want one of them to roll. Same thing with the spell damage. So these are the kind of mods. So we'll look at the list here. So CDR and CDR. So those two together. So we'll put them like this. And to hit this with fossils, by clicking compute best selection, we will see that it's most likely going to tell me that one of the cheapest ways to hit some of these mods with these really high tiers, which we know for a fact is very profitable, is going to be done with Etheric and Dense Fossil, and that's about 400,000 Chaos Orbs to hit. Now, if we start taking these modifiers and we bring them down in terms of tiers, because some of these tiers will still be a preferable state to hit, you can see that the cost goes down drastically. And if we remove any of these modifiers, let's say we take away the spell damage modifier, suddenly it's a lot cheaper, because we can hit any combination of these to be a profitable state, which you have to fiddle around with. So it can take quite a long time to go through all the different outcomes of this spell, so I'm not going to do that in this video, just showing you how you can do it. So now that we know that you have 5.3x, what we want to do is basically look at different type of modifiers like CDR and Energy Shield with percent Energy Shield, just like this. Any type of variable that of these results that you're looking into, you would have to take that and multiply that by 1.2 to get a more safe calculation, plus the static number, in this case being 5.3 Exalted. So because of the way we're looking into this craft, most of them have defensive tags, we have 5.3 Exalted investment. I am literally going to use primitive chaotic resonators, which you get for about 4 to 5 for 1 chaos. And the dense fossils are only 1 chaos each. So each of these rolls is basically 1.25 chaos. And by smacking these in, you can see that this one doesn't really have the mods we want. And we're going to move on and craft the next one. This one has cooldown recovery rate. I do believe that's tier 1, isn't it? It is, but as you can see, the flat energy shield is kind of bad. The percent's really, the recovery rate is kind of so-so, but it doesn't have enough mods that makes me want to bother looking into it. This one looked interesting, but it's not good enough. So you basically do it this way. Just spam these. If you want to go crazy with it, because the thing is with the etheric fossils, they're actually 1C each, and the potent chaotic resonators, they're 1C for 3. So if you want to spend the time to buy etheric, you could go etheric with dense and craft it like this as well, which will give you a pretty high chance of hitting the modifiers. In this case, we have a really bad flat energy shield, but we have recovery rate, we have critical strike chance against shocked. So it kind of depends on how you want to go with it. So normally I just spam dense fossil because it's easier to purchase, and even if it's slightly worse than the etheric strategy in the current market, this is easier to buy. It's 1 fossil and 1 type of resonators, which is very easily to achieve in terms of currency outcome and whatnot, and it's very cheap to purchase. So here we have a CDR rate of tier 1. We have a tier 4 spell damage from flask effect with a tier 1 flat energy shield. Just to give you an idea of what something like this can be, is by looking at this, we can see that this is 5 Exalted. And if you then look at the market, on that 5 Exalted belt, it's a crystal belt with a tier 1 spell damage, worse flat, the tier 1 there. In our case, we have a open prefix, so we could actually get a little bit of profit already out of this. However, my plan for doing this is to get more currency out of it, so I will invest more currency into crafting this, and that's what we're going to do in this video. But this belt with a bench crafted energy shield on, or whatever prefix you want to go, damage or something, could already be a couple of X profit for you. So this is a very easy craft to do, because you have so many different outcomes that would be very preferable to see on a belt like this, which is why I like crafting it. The more different outcomes you can hit that is profitable, the higher the chance of you crafting something you can sell for a profit will be, and that's why I don't like to smack in other stats on it. I want to keep my craft cost down to as low as I can get it, and then I'll just spam this up till I get to a stage that I would like it to be. So here, for example, we have a decent flat energy shield. We have a tier 1 energy shield recovery. Flask effect duration is okay, but this is CDR rate. It's only tier 2, I believe. No, that's actually tier 1. But the rest of the mods are not that good. But just to show you what this would be worth, the energy shield, we'd look at that one, and we'd get the flask effect duration. We actually don't need that, but the energy recovery rate and CDR. You see that this belt is 10 Exalted. This is already a pretty big chunk of currency. Now, again, I will personally craft this further because I think it's too cheap to just spam dense fossils on this till we get something even better. But I can already sell this for 10 Exalted to make currency. So there's so many different outcomes, which is what I'm showing you guys with this type of belt, and that's why we're using the dense fossils. And I've probably said that 600 times to sound like a broken record at this point, but you know. This one has a bad recovery, cooldown recovery rate though. Here's another example we can look at just to show you. I don't think that would be worth that much. We can lower that to like 80, see what happens. Nothing. Take away the spell damage mod, that's not that good. Yeah, I'd say about 10 Exalted, I'd assume. It's not really that good, personally, I'd say. The tiers are a bit low. but again, it would be profitable to sell for a bit of currency. This one could have been good, but resistances are not that attractive, especially with all the aura stacking going on in the current leagues. It's a lot about understanding the meta of builds being played in the current league. So we've already hit a few rolls at the moment that would have been profitable for the outcome of just making currency. Percent energy shield is something I would really like to see on the outcome of this. Like this one has ES recovery rate, so we'll definitely have a look at this. So if we could take a look at this one, good energy shield, ES recovery, energy shield from body armor. This is 8x, not really something we'd be looking into at this point because we spent a little bit on it already. So we would keep going. So last 2 tries for this video. Ooh, hello. Well, not really. But it is another case of energy shield from body armor, tier 2. Bad flat, but it's a medium roll, and then the ES recovery rate, bad tier, so I'm not even going to bother that one. And last crack was terrible. So I'm going to show you the belt that we did craft the other day, which has a tier 1 energy shield for body armor, it has a tier 2% energy shield, it has a tier 1 energy shield recovery rate, and it has a tier 1 spell damage during flask effect, which allows us to put it up for 29 exalteds. A couple of days ago, we crafted this one, which has a tier 3 flat energy shield, a tier 1 energy shield for body armor, tier 3 spell damage, and there was an open suffix for us to bench craft cooldown recovery. We smacked that one up for 12x. So just to recap what we did, we spent about 6x something, 6.5. Not entirely sure of the number, you might want to correct me. And we had several outcomes that could be sold for around 10 exalted, which would mean that we got at least 3, maybe 4 exalted profit, depending on where we land on the amount of fossils we use to hit those mods. So like I said, this is a very easy craft to do. If you want to stop on a couple of X profit just to make sure you secure your income, do so, sell it. I'm going to keep going on this belt, see if we can push it up to something like 20, 25x profits or 25x value on it, so we make a little bit more than 3 or 4x profit. I want to make like 5 to 10 exalted profit out of the belt, then I'll be happy. But everyone does this differently. So anyways, hope you guys had some use of this video. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay safe and keep rocking.